Okay, I think we're ready for the Fresno County Rural Transit Agency meeting.
Well, we're ready, but they're not.
Wow, you're a brave man. This is the last one.
Right, so, okay, we can start with the Fresno County Rural Transit Agency, and it is 5:35. Roll call, please.
Everybody's so quiet.
Just go.
My apologies. City of Coalinga.
Absent.
City of Fireball.
Here.
City of Fowler.
Here.
Fresno County.
Here.
City of Huron. City of Kerman.
Here.
City of Kingsburg.
Here.
City of Mendota.
Here.
City of Orange Cove.
Here.
City of Parlier.
Here.
City of Reedley.
Here.
City of Sanger. City of San Joaquin.
Here.
City of Selma.
Here.
We have quorum.
Thank you. We can move on to item. Which one we were, okay, we're doing the actual elections, officer elections for FCRTA, sorry. So at this time, I'm going to open up for nominations. Is there anybody that would like to nominate a board member at this time for chair?
I would like to nominate Mayor Martinez.
Is there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, so let's, since there's none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. And now we can do the vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Mayor Brandon Purcell from Kingsburg.
Is there any other nominations? Hearing none, and,
I'd like to nominate Mayor Alma from Parlier.
oh, thank you. So then I guess we just do the roll call for that.
And how does that work? We just say the name?
Yes.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
City of Coalinga. City of Fireball.
Purcell?
Fowler.
Parcel.
Fresno County.
Purcell.
Huron.
Like dual endorsed?
Doesn't matter.
What's out?
City of Kingsburg.
Is that-
So. Easy.
Mendota.
So.
Keep Kerman.
Orange Cove.
Beltran.
City of Parlier.
I guess myself, Beltran.
City of Reedley.
Purcell?
What happened to me?
City of Sanger. City of San Joaquin.
Purcell.
City of Selma.
Purcell.
Herman wasn't on there.
Didn't you say?
City of Kerman.
Kerman.
You didn't vote? I thought you
Kerman.
did.
No, I didn't.
Oh,
City of Kerman.
City of Kerman, Purcell.
okay, then we have Purcell as our vice chair for FCRTA. Thank you. Now we can move on to the next, I'm sorry.
I think we need a round of applause for our new chair and vice chair.
We can move on to the next item, and that would be public presentations. Is there any public presentations at this time from the public? Okay, hearing none, we can move on to consent items. Is there any consent item that we would like to pull at this time?
I'll move that we accept the consent calendar as presented.
We're already done, so that's why I might as well just finish it. So I'm sorry, I didn't get to hear that.
I moved that we accept the consent calendar as presented.
Okay, is there, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Any opposed? Hearing motion carried. Okay, so we're done with that. And,
One item from staff.
oh, okay.
I just want to thank you, Mayor Bertrand, for serving as chair for FCRTA. We appreciate your time and dedication. So thank you so much.
Oh, no, you're welcome anytime. Okay, thank you. And now we can move on to the next item, and that is for the FCOG. And since we're going to also do the selection, the reason why I had a discussion with Victor, and I am seeking to be running for the Board of Supervisors, so I need to focus on that. And if it's the will again of having you as the vice chair, I will support that as well, because to me, it's not about fighting about positions, because it's not even about that. It's that how can we work together and get along, and a mission. It's not, because being chair or vice chair doesn't carry no power. We all are powerful as a whole, not individually. So to me, I appreciate the time that I served here with all of you. I've been here 12 years, went through so many different mayors, and I'm sure we're going to go through a lot more mayors again, because there's always change. And it's just about how are we going to work together in making the changes that are needed for our communities, and not about ourselves. So that is why, to me, I was expecting this, because like I said, I am needing to focus on my campaign. I have not really put that full effort before. Now I'm 100% going to be dedicated to it, because guess what? We represent rural communities. And so when I'm running for Board of Supervisors, that District 4 represents rural communities. So I think that's more important right now than to actually run as chair. And those are important roles. I'm not going to take away from that. But the fact of the matter is that we're more powerful as a body versus individually. That's what makes the difference for our communities, for the people that elected us to do the right thing for our constituents. So with that, we can start with the roll call on the elections or nominations. Let's open it up for the chair for the nominations, and then we'll go from there.
I'd like to nominate Mayor Victor Martinez.
Any other nominations?
Are we in COG?
Right, so you have to
Yes. Oh, I didn't even.
start
Ah,
roll call.
okay.
first.
Okay, roll call. I'm sorry.
Straight
Just got
to,
carried away.
you're right.
Thank you for that.
City of Clovis,
Here.
City of Coalinga, City of Firebaugh,
Here.
City of Fowler,
Here.
City of Fresno,
Here.
City of Huron,
Here.
City of Kerman,
Here.
City of Kingsburg,
Here.
City of Mendota, City of Orange Cove,
Here.
City of Parlier,
Here.
City of Reedley,
Here.
City of Sanger, City of San Joaquin,
Here.
City of Selma,
Here.
Fresno County.
Here.
We have quorum.
Okay. And then its time is 5:44. So again, let's start with the nominations and it was Victor Martinez. Going way back when I was 12 years ago.
Oh.
So Victor Martinez has been nominated for chair. Is there any others? Hearing none, then we have we don't even need to do roll call. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. So we can do the vice chair.
Like to
Any-
nominate Brandon Purcell from Kingsburg for vice chair.
Is there any nominations? Okay, so then we have all those in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, so now what we can do, since this agenda is a little longer, we can actually have Mayor Martinez take over from here on forward as our chair.
So real quick, Alma,
Sorry?
thank you for everything you've done. I've been here a very short time, and I just want to say thank you for your service and for the words that you just spoke before we did the vote.
Yes,
Thank you.
you know, it's a team
Yep.
effort and I appreciate all of you guys. It's not a power struggle. I don't
Yeah.
believe in that. I think it's important to just stay focused about our communities. Because if we start fighting amongst ourselves,
Yep.
we're never going to be able to be successful. So
Well
thank
said.
you for
Thank
that
you.
too. All right,
Thank you, Alma.
Appreciate you.
go ahead. ¿Vas a decir algo?
No, thank you. I echo that statement. I mean, we're here for one purpose. This body exists for only one reason, is to ensure that the advancement of our community continues and that we enhance quality of life, work it on a daily basis, not only as mayors back home, but as a full body for the county here. Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your service and
Oh, anytime. That's what I thrive on, just helping as much as I can. So you may take the floor,
Yeah.
Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate your service and thank you, everybody, for the confidence, given to me. I humbly accept and working together with everybody for the best of, all of our communities and everyone in Fresno County. I'd like to take a quick moment and present a plaque to Mayor Alma Beltran for her service, in the past 3 years, right? Mayor?
Yes.
3 years as chairwoman of Fresno Council of Government, so.
so is Alma the first chairwoman of the COG? Oh, Michelle Rowland? Oh, that's right, huh?
Yeah, I'm the
First Latina. All right, we got that one. We got that.
Mayor, we
Can't forget that.
Yeah.
really appreciate your service and everything, all the support, all the communities. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. All I want to say is, Victor, you've been very supportive. You've been right there, my right-hand man, and always backing everything that we needed to dire. We've been through a lot. And I thank you for doing this because I didn't even expect it. I don't want to cry.
Is there a Sharpie so we could all sign it?
I know.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Little pin to sign in. Thank you. I appreciate that.
back.
Yeah, right.
She did.
Thank you.
Maybe at the end, when we conclude the meeting, we can get together and take a picture as a whole group picture.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. No,
Chair,
anytime.
Chair Martinez, can I just, I, being very new to the COG, I just wanted to thank you, Chair Beltran, because when we came in, there were a lot of the immigration issues. You got all the mayors together to just understand the issues, to work with even cross counties to just try to see what can we do, what can we say, how can we help our communities, and then leading us through sort of the Measure C, and that had its ups and downs, but you kept it all together and got us to the finish line of what we needed, our work, what we needed to do. Even with the, I think I'd never seen sort of the issues also with the attorneys and you handled that and you sought, counsel and you got us through all that. And I appreciate that, and especially for those of us who are new. And I'm only here for 2 years, so I'll be gone already anyway. So congratulations to you, Chair Martinez. But thank you, Alma, for all your work and even in the community for, getting to know us and acknowledging us out there. I personally appreciate that. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. And I couldn't have done this without you guys because it takes a team effort. And that's why I appreciate you all for being very supportive, even when we were in situations that were they were very uncomfortable, but we got through them and that's what matters, so I appreciate this because without you guys, it wouldn't have been possible. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Mayor. Anybody else? Any comments?
No.
You good? All right, thank you. Moving on, we have item number 2 on the agenda, transportation consent items, items A through G. If anybody has any questions, we can pull an item. If not, then can they get a question? We have a Mayor.
Second.
Second by Mayor Dyer. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion pass. Then we have transportation action discussion items. Item A, Fresno County Mobility Hub Feasibility Study. Simran, please.
Good evening. Thank you. Simran Judy, Fresno Council of Governments. I'll be presenting on the Fresno County Mobility Hub's feasibility study with Walker Consultants. And we have Ben Weber here with us all the way from Oregon to really dive deep into what we've done over the last 2 years. This project was developed in partnership with all 3 transit agencies of our region. So FACS, Clovis Transit, and FCRTA. We had received a $700,000 sustainable planning grant from Caltrans, and the locals had matched $140,000. And so we kicked off in the summer of 2024, and we were led by, on the consultant side, Walker Consultants, amongst others, who put together the outreach and the design for the renderings that you'll see here in the room as well for all 4 locations. 2 of the locations are in the rural parts of Fresno County, east and west, and one in Clovis and one in city of Fresno. And so we reviewed and found, what resources would best serve each location and community, as well as other elements that locals will find valuable. And a lot of the members in the room were participating in that outreach that we held at your cities. And so we thank you for that support and collaboration. And with that, I'll pass it over to Ben Weber to review the project. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Simran, for that introduction to the project, as well as your leadership, along with other Fresno COG staff on this work, in addition to Clovis Transit, FACS, and FCRTA staff who provided leadership and inspiration along the way, all of whom are in the room here today. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure the last 2 years. Try to be quick here, cramming a 2-year project into about 8 minutes of presentation. So bear with me. But again, our objectives with this work are really ultimately to improve multimodal transportation options around the county, but also in the local communities where we develop these concept studies, really focusing on expanding mobility in disadvantaged communities and developing prototypes for 4 locations that could be expanded or built upon in other communities. So 4 places through this study, but lessons learned for any number of places, urban places or rural communities around Fresno County. So with our team introduction, the project background largely already handled here just now, I'll walk us through items 3, 4, and 5 about the analysis and site selection, the development of hub concepts, and then implementation recommendations for Fresno COG, the transit agencies, and all of you to play a role in to carry forward these ideas and help improve transportation options in this county. So very quickly on our project timeline here, we are in the very lower right corner, that little brown box with the Transportation Technical Committee and the Policy Advisory Committee reviewing this project a week and a half ago. And then now with you all, the Policy Board. So thank you tonight for your review of this work, your input and discussion, and your support of this project several years ago when Fresno COG launched it and throughout the entire process to get to this point. So I'll be quick. Of course, please raise your hand or chime in if you have questions along the way, but we'll welcome discussion at the end as well. Yeah. We've not presented to them. No.
Yeah.
So yeah, the EJ subcommittee is really on a separate process. This had its own advisory committee that was focused just on this study. I'm not sure I have the makeup of that committee in front of me, but we can take a look at that. But yeah, not sure.
We, I believe we did have members of the SS TAC people, and they typically represent EJ communities as well. So
Yeah, if I could address Mayor Leon's comments briefly. So the EJ subcommittee, like Paul mentioned, is separate for the RTPSCS process, but we developed a steering committee as we do for most of our studies and plans, and a lot of those individuals were representatives of the cities here, but also other special services, housing authorities. We reached out to college campuses and other social service type groups. I could share the list of who served on the steering committee, if that's helpful. Yes.
Okay, because we developed a environmental business task force, which works from when the EJTF comes to play with the regional transportation plan. But the environmental justice advisory committee is kind of like just ongoing. I'm wondering like why isn't that?
So for each, so it's still around, but for each project, we develop a stakeholder list, what we think would be the most useful for this project. We obviously always include our member agency staff, but then we also think of what other special programs, especially with the mobility hub, so other social service programs, school campuses, because we would assume like college students would be using this. So what is the most viable per project? So we kind of analyze steering committees project by project basis, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's a whole, we don't share it with other subcommittees. But if that's.
May I say something? Because this was part of also Parlier's process, and they had community involvement, remember?
We worked with Parlier.
So it's
yeah,
not like
yeah.
it goes through like a planning commission or communities that are organized to look at several different projects. It was more of a community input.
No, yeah, and I think that's the main thing, right? Because historically, rural communities are not really engaged or brought into the process,
Nope.
and that's why we established the EJ Advisory Committee back in the day. And so, just if there's equivalent type of engagement with rural communities, I hope there was.
Yes.
But I just feel more comfortable if I see
let
that
me-
that
yeah, let
there's
me
an
add-
actual body that we created to ensure that takes place.
Yeah.
Be there, then that just brings me, comfort in ensuring
If I
that
can,
no
if I can
gaps
just
were
say a few things.
were
I
left behind.
I participated in a few meetings for the San Joaquin
Mhm.
Mobility Hub, and there was great involvement by the community. Every one of those meetings had a lot of people, so I think people are very excited about those projects.
Yeah.
Ben will review the public outreach piece, so, and we can, of course, address
Please continue.
any of your additional comments at that time. Thank you.
I'm gonna start using the gavel.
You won't have me to answer to on that. Yeah. Let's see. It frozen up here.
Moving on.
Yeah, something's gonna keep us here till 9.
Might be 10.
Okay, just had to push harder. To launch into the project, we had to ask ourselves, what are mobility hubs? They are not an off-the-shelf transportation solution, and there aren't that many examples of these in North America or even around the planet. The idea of really integrating deliberately all these different transportation modes into a community place. So what you see here is an early exploration, a mobility hub that focuses its amenities on street with the transit stop and bike lanes within the street right of way, complemented by amenities offsite in the adjacent property, public plaza, solar panels, and electric vehicle charging stations here. Another example has a little bit more of an offsite focus, some of those same amenities, but you can see the bus circulation brought offsite into a transit depot, but also that electric vehicle charging as a useful asset for transit fleets and private users. And we want to emphasize that these improvements should happen not only at the literal hub location, the bounds of the hub, but making sure that sidewalks and bike lanes and streets are improved for safety around a neighborhood and a city so that people can come and go to the hub more easily and safely. So this was just sort of inspiration for the team as we dove into this analysis. We looked at all 6,000 square miles of Fresno County and all the differing community types that it comprises. We did a location evaluation that aggregated transportation, equity scoring, environmental factors, looking at identifying activity centers and land use opportunities, working math behind the scenes in this GIS process to create suitability scoring of higher or lower feasibility or suitability locations. And so this is sort of the math behind the scenes. We also had a lot of that public engagement with people all over in rural and urban communities to discuss with them about their transportation needs and to have conversations with city staff about what kinds of partnerships towards developing hubs they could be supportive of. So there's the hard data side of this, but also the partnerships and coordination element that really went into looking at site practicalities. Each of our 3 transit agencies, we had a long list and a short list and a final selection process. With Clovis Transit, we had 4 locations that we dove into exploring, including a park and trailhead area on the north end of town near a residential growth area. A Caltrans park and ride on Highway 168 in Temperance, exploring what it would look like to transform that into a more multimodal amenity. The Landmark Transit Center near Old Town, which many of you are familiar with as the hub of Clovis Transit's reorganized bus service. And then a location near the Department of Social Services campus, seeing what a hub at a major employment depot would look like. Eventually settling on Landmark Transit as a location to build on the momentum of transit service and try to bring more multimodal connections there. With facts, we dove into 20 different locations, including college campuses, major intersections, and commercial areas, but eventually deciding on the former University Medical Center campus in Southeast Fresno at the corner of Kings Canyon and Cedar. It's a privately owned property, and facts and the city were interested in looking at improvements to both those major streets and what kind of partnerships could occur with that private landowner in a future development scenario. And then with FCRTA, we chose 2 final locations to try to capture the diversity of places that FCRTA serves and the range of different communities. So eventually, through the process, landing on the Parlier Police Department site and a property of about 7,000 square feet on Main Street in downtown San Joaquin. We had a lot of community engagement through this process. We can discuss in Q&A if you like. It culminated in these community workshops that we did in July 2025, 1 each for the 4 locations on site or as close to the site as we could get. This was with elected officials and city staff, and community members were invited to these activities. We came to these workshops with draft design concepts and let people basically tear them apart and put them back together. And that's how we came up with these baseline concepts for each location and enhanced concepts. Baseline being sort of a phase 1, a simpler, easier, quicker start to a mobility hub. And then enhanced being really adding a lot of multimodal features and amenities, but knowing that it would require more investment, more coordination, and deeper partnerships to get to that enhanced level. So looking at these quickly, this is Landmark Square, the Clovis Transit Center site, where the Transit Center, the Senior Center, and a new Fresno County Branch Library are under construction. We wanted to take advantage of all the civic energy happening at this place to leverage that transit and the bus service redesign there, to improve the Old Town Trail, to bring in solar generation and microgrid features and electric vehicle charging. For Facts Fresno, this is the Kings Canyon Cedar Hub site. So you can see there's improvements on both of those streets with sidewalk enhancements, improvements to the bus stops that exist today on 2 very busy Facts routes, including additional shade, secure parking or secure bicycle parking facilities. But then we also project some improvements to the private side of the property here, including a public plaza, additional electric vehicle charging. And we recognize this would need to happen in partnership with that private landowner. And so that would be a partnership of many eight entities along with that developer. We haven't had deep conversations with that person yet. But, that would be a next step towards the advancement of this project. In Parlier, for one of the FCRTA locations, the parking lot on the west side of the police station on Mendocino is less used now that they've built a new parking lot for the police on the east side. So this is an opportunity to take advantage of that underused public land to bring a potential FCRTA bus stop route through the site, to add electric vehicle charging and make this a location where FCRTA could charge future electric vehicles, potentially base a microtransit service, and potentially allow electric vehicle charging for public users or widely available. Another look at this, the parcel on the bottom edge there that's partially whited out, that's a privately owned property that's vacant right now, just south of the police station. And we're envisioning in this enhanced concept, it could be improved as a park or a civic amenity. This is a part of Parlier that could really benefit from a community space like that. And the mobility hub can provide those features, not just mobility, but a community gathering space. And finally, in San Joaquin, the 7,000 square foot site that FCRTA explored several years ago for microgrid and resiliency hub features. We wanted to continue looking at this location as a microtransit hub, but also bringing some of those civic assets into downtown San Joaquin and making this a gathering place where different mobility connections can come together. This even includes things like an FCRTA bus stop on Main Street. FCRTA doesn't have a fixed route to San Joaquin today, but if in future service planning it did, we want to make sure this hub anticipates how different mobility providers might adjust and change their services 5 or 10 or 15 years from now. So very quickly, we know that pictures speak 1,000 words in these kind of situations, particularly when you're trying to envision a mobility hub. We've been working on these renderings. These are drafts right now that we'll polish up over the next few weeks and make available to this entire project team. And we hope these are inspirational for people to help build momentum and help educate community members about what mobility hubs are and envision the physical space that they are. So landmark, the FACTS location where you see public and private side improvements, the Parlier Police Department, and the San Joaquin Main Street hub site. But finally, chapter 4 of this plan really gets into next steps about implementation planning. Where does this study end? And how can you all pick up the ball and start carrying forward these concepts? We have initial ideas and we have a lot of useful information about feasibility. There's a lot of complexity to actually getting these up and running. So we broke this into 2 themes, the first being governance, about advancing a regional vision for mobility hubs, improving the transportation network. Perhaps think about how do mobility hubs fit into the regional transportation plan, SCS, which is later on your agenda tonight. How could this kind of infrastructure and programming serve that? Engaging and organizing implementation partners takes not just one city or one transit agency to get these up and running. It takes a lot of different collaborators. Seeking funding sources. I don't have to tell you how complicated that can be. And planning for operations and maintenance. Second part of this is to continue working on these design concepts. We've gotten this started with some of these illustrations and site plans, but these are just initial designs, and you'd have to work with community members and site owners to figure out what goes where and how you phase the development of this work. I really just want to emphasize, as you think about development, start small, move quickly, and try pilot projects. Again, mobility hubs are not an established thing, so try something and see how it works and allow your community to evolve and adapt what it does as the next step and the next step and the next step. So just key actions for Fresno COG and partners in this room to think about. You can be advocates, educating people about these types of mobility hubs and what they can provide in a community. your managers helping to coordinate funding, MOUs, launching these pilot projects, and making sure one hub is integrated with everything else happening Fresno County wide. And then ensuring that you're tying into the strong actions you already have underway towards mobility and decarbonization. You've made incredible progress with electrification and air quality and making Fresno County a more walkable, bikeable, transit-friendly place. And mobility hubs hopefully can be a part of that. So that's the quick top to bottom on the 20 months of the project. And I think on to Simran to close us out.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you for working with Fresno COG and the 3 transit agencies. I want to also thank Caltrans for funding this project and funding this work, and especially, but more than ever, the transit partners and staff, Jeff Long, Bethany Berube, Janelle Del Campo, and formerly Moses Stites, who also worked on this project and got it to this point. I want to also just emphasize that this project is really the tip of the iceberg of how Fresno COG can work with the transit agencies and seeing how to navigate challenges for any development, but also it's going to serve in our SES process, which Santosh and Paul will touch on later tonight. And so with that, we can go back to any slide for any comments from the mayors, or
Thank you.
if there's any questions overall.
Thank you. We appreciate the, the presentation and those slides, comments.
Here.
Yeah, yeah, if I might. Just kind of a question in terms of how was the actual site selected? What were some of the factors or variables that you looked into? Was it ridership demand, land availability, land size? What were some of those factors?
Yeah, all of the above, plus wanting to make sure that the 4 locations we looked at represented a wide variety of sizes and contexts. And so you can see some of the busiest places in Southeast Fresno, but also some of the smaller towns in San Joaquin. And so thinking about site availability, activity centers, is it a place that has growth and development and activation potential? All of those factored in, in addition to that underlying math in the geographic analysis.
Is it, did the study consider having, for example, in the city of Fresno, multiple sites so for example, our plans entail a mobility hub in downtown Fresno, and we already have land acquisition, first right of refusal on property for that to occur by high-speed rail.
Right.
And so I just wondered, what was that considered?
We definitely took a look at the high-speed rail location, and we specifically ruled it out because we knew it was being studied through other processes, and so wanted to explore a different site in Fresno.
Okay, so was this in lieu of or in addition to a downtown site?
It was additional too.
Okay.
Yeah, that is under a separate, the high-speed rail station area planning process. And we wanted, as Ben mentioned, to evaluate additional locations in the city of Fresno.
Yeah, and I'm not saying Kings Canyon and Cedar's a bad site. I know there's land availability at the old BMC, CRMC, and certainly that's on our bus rapid transit route. There's a lot of development up on Kings Canyon that's occurring. We have one at Ventura and 7th, the development coming in with farm worker housing. So, I mean, it's not a bad site. I just didn't know if it was like the only site.
Thank you, Mayor Kerman. Maria, you had a comment?
He answered.
Oh, he answered your question. Any other mayor? Mayor Clovis?
Can you speak to the paratransit services at all, what you found and how that fits into sort of what you're reporting? Because you didn't mention it in your report, but that's where my interest is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. We think these hubs could be locations for, paratransit operations, whether that's vehicle charging or driver layover, or places where users of paratransit perhaps need to switch between multiple modes, between formal paratransit bus service, ride share, walking and rolling. And so, certainly we're trying to take into account the needs of disabled people around the entire community and hope these hubs can be an asset for that. In addition to being, a place that's inviting and safe as a waiting area, because there is always waiting that occurs in transportation too.
So you're saying that, okay, I guess a lot of this is just with regards to mobility hubs and not just what is the performance right now? Or are we moving, the study's moving us towards that even for paratransit? Is that what you're kind of saying?
Well, I'd have to defer to each transit agency to speak about their service plans for paratransit, but we definitely planned these mobility hubs to be accommodating of that service and those vehicles and users.
Well, I don't know if this is the place to sort of talk with the city of Fresno regarding paratransit, because I think that it is a good time to sort of evaluate, because as I was looking at the numbers, the city of Clovis takes someone who calls paratransit, so we use the roundup, and we take them to door. What I've understood, which could be wrong, Fresno, and that goes anywhere in Fresno. So if they go to the VA, we take them all the way, and then they'll take it back. But then Fresno only takes them to the border. And then we have to come back, pick them up, and take them back home. And so I'm trying to see, how can we make it more efficient? As I look at the numbers, we have the same number of riders. It's like yours is even a little bit less for the city of Fresno. It's only 1.9, ours is 2. So, but there's more dollars there. And so how can we coordinate so that with the neediest folks, meaning most physically needy, are not having to be dropped off, but always just door to door, whether it's Handy Ride or whether it's us. And how do we begin sort of the discussions to make it where, well, until we get to whatever this study says, let's try to serve them best, because we're willing to, and we have been taking them everywhere. And I think we sometimes even pick them up if they call us in Fresno to bring them back all the way. And so I just want us to serve them best instead of having them to stop. And then there's no mobility hub. So even if you take them to our transit center, that's even better, because then it'll be closer for our buses to take them. So I don't know if you looked at that at all. Is that's not something that this study would look at, but then how do we start that service discussion?
Yeah, I can touch on that.
Yeah,
and
please.
Maybe Simran, if you want to jump in, but that would be a separate analysis. I think it's a worthy conversation for sure, but it wasn't within the scope of this analysis, which is really mobility hubs, how they're structured, and kind of how they're built, or the feasibility of those. But yeah, I think there's more than enough, I think there is a lot of room to talk about additional improvements to the paratransit service.
Sounds like you're trying to regionalize paratransit.
No, I think if there's a better designated position. So in other words, we go to your mobility hub if we need to pick them up, or Handy Ride coming all the way, instead of
point to point.
Yeah,
Point to
instead
point
of
for
putting them
paratransit.
at a gas station at a corner, like at Willow. I think that does a disservice. We've heard a lot of complaints from users going, okay, why? Or even if they're taking someone from Fresno to go to Clovis Community, Handy Ride will take them to the border. Ours will come pick them up and then take them to the destination. And so I think that, how do we coordinate that so that
I think I agree totally. By the way, I think it is inefficient, and I'm sure it boils down to funding, because Fresno is getting certain dollar amount and they're going to fund within their jurisdiction. But that's not to say we can't, between our facts folks and your transportation people, can't come up with a plan on a countywide basis. That's why I really said it's almost like regionalizing paratransit, which, if that's what we want to do, or come up with a system that allows for that, I'm 100% for it.
Okay. And when looking at these numbers, that's why I brought it up, because the numbers made it where our funding is so much less, yet we can do it. Their funding is so much more with the same number of ridership, and yet it can't be done. So that's why it makes me look at it and go, okay, and then how does that all fit into sort of what you're looking at for all of us with regards to mobility hubs? So thank you for that. And my second question is, when is the right time to start planning that second mobility hub? Or if it's a smaller city, when is that time to start planning that in their city plans because, kind of like we're growing. So yes, city, you should go get land now, start planning it now, or your numbers don't justify getting that second hub. So that way we as decision makers can start looking at, okay, this is our growth area and this is where we need to invest right now. Are there guidelines for that at all? Is it ridership? Is this number of population?
Certainly, there's a lot of factors that go into deciding to make a transportation infrastructure improvement, certainly on the scale of landmark. If you're talking about something the size of a second landmark in Clovis, that's a big decision. We would want mobility hubs to be incredibly varied in size, in terms of the size, the range of services they provide. And so that's why when we were looking at the 4 different Clovis locations, the Dry Creek Trailhead, for example, we knew that that would be a smaller location with a different blend of transportation modes. That's not a Clovis Transit hub today. That might be a micro transit pickup point, but could still be a mobility hub for walking and rolling, bike share, things like that, micro transit services. So I would say it depends on what types of transportation options you're interested in linking together and what civic amenities and public spaces you might want to occur there as well. But in terms of when to start planning, I'm a planner, and so I say just as early as possible yesterday.
Mayor Martinez, if I may, I just wanted to point out to the board that this, like many of our studies, the action tonight is simply to accept the study. This is not a plan for adoption. This is a study outlining what is considered to be from the result of it being the optimal locations for these sites for the mobility hubs. It doesn't mean that they have to be pursued in this fashion, but it's setting the stage for that to occur should the cities and the transit agencies choose to work in tandem to do that. And so, again, this is not an adoption. It doesn't commit your jurisdictions to anything in particular. It's simply the best guidance that we can offer at this time, and we can certainly study some of these issues further, as Paul was suggesting, if that is your direction. Happy to do that.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate you. Any other comments from here? Anybody else? If not, opening up to the public. Any public comments? Excuse me. All right. Moses?
Yeah, Moses Stites, FCTA. Very briefly, I know you've got a long agenda, but I do want to address some of the points that Mayor Dyer and Mayor Vong Matatua made. And obviously, no surprise, they do their homework and they look at the numbers. When this study first came about, all these concepts that you're talking about that are being fleshed out tonight, these were some of the talking points and discussion points. They were talked about at the community meetings, as Mayor Martinez from Mendota indicated. Wide representation. The select analysis of these sites was very challenging, very difficult at the lowest level to the highest level. But keep in mind, these are starting points. And these mobility hubs, to my knowledge, there are only maybe 1 or 2 in the United States that are in existence. Some are on the East Coast of all places, including solar with their limited lighting. But this is a concept that you folks can take back to your cities, update your general plans, your specific plans, your community plans, and you can incorporate this concept and it'll cover different areas for your affordable housing, for your energy, transportation, circulation. This is really a guidepost or a model that you can incorporate. I know some of the rural cities have been working with FCRTA, Janelle Del Campo, on some of the affordable housing locations. PG&E has been involved because there's been a grid analysis done for the entire county. These are all holistic approach in order to get to this point, as Robert's talking about, to take it to the next level. Also, FCRTA in the previous agenda was awarded microgrid study 2. And I think some of this discussion that you're having tonight, which is very pertinent and very specific, can be incorporated in that second study. And these are all ideas and concepts. They're very applicable. Mayor Vong Matatua is referencing the annual productivity with productivity on the handy ride compared to fixed ride operations. City of Fresno, overlapping cross drop-offs. These mobility hubs can be expanded to incorporate some of those concepts. Obviously, you need a bigger footprint. You need the electrical analysis to see how many chargers you want to put in. And each jurisdiction has to make that determination. Do you want to charge for that energy? Do you want to use battery backup? How much solar do you want to use? And just to get into some of the detailed stuff, Mayor Dyer asked about the locations. There was some preliminary circulation analysis too. The egress, the ingress, the width of the driveways. I know in particular Parlier, because they've got a few thorough streets there, how close the driveways are to these intersections. So there was some preliminary high-level reviews that the next study will focus in on a few more. And of these locations, there's only one that's currently funded right now, and that's the City of San Joaquin location. So look forward to that, but keep your questions coming, and I think you'll have another opportunity, another bite at the apple when that other grid analysis comes out. And I just want to commend Simran for taking on this project. It was not an easy project working with a lot of the parties involved, and also compliment the 3 transit agencies, FACT, City of Clovis Transit, and also FCRTA. But Simran did a commendable job getting all the consultants together, and I think you've got a good base boilerplate to carry forth to however you want to use it in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, most appreciate you. Anybody else from the public has any other comments on these? If not, bringing it back, the action staff recommends.
Chair Martinez, can I have one
Yes.
more question? Similar, VMT is big. And so does this address VMT, and do sort of these mobility hubs allow cities now to plan around those, so that way sort of that VMT charge is decreased?
Right.
And if it does, do the smaller hubs also qualify to reduce VMT? Can you?
So we've been discussing that internally recently, and we do anticipate that being one of the benefits of employing a mobility hub. Like I mentioned at the end of the presentation, we're going to be using the mobility hub feasibility study as a basis for off-model strategy for the SES, which Paul and Santosh will address in the next item. So yeah, you're on the right path in thinking that that's definitely something that we haven't fully modeled, but we are starting that process after this meeting concludes. They'll be beginning that process to see how a mobility hub would reduce certain emissions in VMT.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that really means when we plan internally, we need to start to put transit in our planning department to make sure that they're allowing developers to chime in on this issue, and also making mobility hubs one of the, I guess, mitigations that are potentially available
Exactly.
to developers, so they can, reduce that VMT fee. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Any final thoughts? If not, can I get a motion? Yep, seconds? Second. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion pass. Item B, Fresno Council of Governments 2026 Regional Transportation Plan, Sustainable Community Strategy, Preferred Scenario Selection. Paul Herman, Santosh.
Thank you, Chair. And good evening, members of the board. Paul Herman, Deputy Director here at Fresno COG, and this evening myself and Santos Bartrai will be talking through the 2026 RTP-SES, or the Regional Transportation Plan Sustainable Community Strategy. Tonight, we're asking for you to take action on selection of a preferred scenario in order for us to advance the RTP-SES this cycle. Last month, I did a presentation, Santosh and I did a presentation kind of previewing tonight's meeting. We wanted to give you an update on all the efforts that went into this process up to this date. We've been going at this for almost 2 years. We started in June of 2024. And so I will do an abbreviated presentation. I won't discuss tonight the revenue estimate, which I touched on last month, or some other elements, but I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions on those. And in the board packet, there was the full agenda, but in order to keep the time down, I didn't want to go through a 50-slide presentation, so we've reduced that down to about 25 slides. So just touching on the overall big picture here, there was over 2,800 projects in our call for projects by the jurisdictions, the transit agencies, and Caltrans. You also saw this last month as well, but I want to just briefly touch on the amount of projects and the amount of funding requested, nearly $10 billion, $9.9 billion in project requests. And that's between 2026 and 2049, so a 23-year period that we're looking at. And here's the breakdown by agency as well, including the estimated cost of those projects by agency. And here's the map here. So this is all 2,800 projects mapped out county-wide. This is available on our planfresno.com website if anybody's interested to take a look at any specific projects. All the information is available on that website. It's a great tool developed by our team, and I highly recommend folks take a look at this. It's very illuminating. Sure. Yep, no problem. Clovis did well. You guys submitted a lot of projects. Fresno actually has less, but Fresno has FACTS that has quite a bit of funding requested as well. And so, yeah, Clovis Transit didn't have as many projects as FACTS, but yeah, quite a bit of projects here. Thank you, everybody. Thank your staffs as well for their contributions. I know our Fresno track system can be quite slow. We're going to be working on, between this cycle and the next cycle, we are looking to upgrade Fresno Track to make it a lot easier for your staff to implement those projects. So look forward to an upgraded system the next time we get to our RTP. All right. So now I'm going to dive into the 5 scenarios that have been outlined. And first starting with scenario A. So this scenario is essentially our capacity increasing road-based scenario. This has the highest level of investment for road capacity increasing projects. For maintenance, you'll see a similar level of investment for scenarios A as the next 2 scenarios, but there is a higher level of investment than the transit-focused scenarios that I'll touch on. There's also a strong amount of funding for operational projects. These are roundabout projects, road improvements to improve traffic flow and safety. We also, as part of the scenario development, we look at land uses. And so for scenario A, this is really kind of maintaining the historical development pattern of predominantly single-family homes in Fresno County. And as you'll see in the scenarios, that mix will kind of shift towards more multifamily housing as we get into higher levels of transit investment. Scenario B, this is our resilient roadways. This is our maintenance-focused scenario that also includes a very strong amount of funding for capacity increasing projects. So still a roads-focused scenario, but really maintenance is the highest priority here. This also has a little bit of a densification of the land uses, but still primarily focused on the expansion of single-family housing throughout Fresno County. So when we get to scenario C here, this is what I'm calling our balanced scenario, where there's just as much funding for transit as we do for road capacity increasing projects. But again, road maintenance is the #1 priority across all of the scenarios. And I just want to highlight that we've heard it loud and clear through many venues that road maintenance must be the priority for Fresno County. And that is shown here. You start to see the densification of our land uses grow here to support that additional level of transit investment, and more of a balanced mix between single family and multifamily housing. More emphasis on infill development starts with scenario C. And so you'll also see a higher consideration for land, agricultural and natural resource land conservation, starting with scenario C. All right, when we get to scenario D, this is our focused on transit scenario. So this actually, this scenario invests in a light rail system in urban Fresno. So we did implement light rail into our model to understand the potential of such a system in the city of Fresno. When it comes to the land use, again, it takes advantage of that light rail system being in operation, and it shows higher density development around those light rail stations. And then again, this scenario really does promote redevelopment and densification in kind of more the inner city urban areas of Fresno and Clovis. And then scenario E is our highest transit investment scenario. This really builds upon scenario D in that it has the light rail network built in, but also includes a regional rail network that we have here under study at Fresno COG. The regional rail network really connects rural communities to downtown Fresno to the future high-speed rail station through utilization of existing infrastructure. So there's rail lines, I'm sure many of you are aware, throughout our communities in some of the smaller, more rural communities in Fresno County. So this scenario envisions a passenger service utilizing those rail lines to provide additional connectivity for the rural communities of Fresno County. All right, this is our budget breakdown by scenario. And so the dark blue line on the left is your road capacity increasing budget by scenario. The big bar in the middle there, the orange bar, is our maintenance and operations funding by scenario. You can see all of the scenarios are around $3 billion or more in road maintenance and operations, and it is the highest level of investment for each scenario, including scenario E with the transit investment. When we get to the green bar, this is our transit investment by scenario. And as you can see, there's an inverse correlation from road capacity increasing to transit. So scenario A has its highest emphasis on road capacity increasing projects and lower emphasis on transit. And that goes in the inverse as we go down into scenarios C, D, and E. And then across all the scenarios, we really did want to make sure that anybody, any jurisdiction or entity that wanted to build a bike or trail project in their community, we want to make sure that project was included in the funding or the constrained project list. And so across all scenarios, we include all projects for trails, bikeways, sidewalk improvements, anything that has an active transportation or a bicycle and pedestrian project, we want to make sure those were included. All right, the number of projects. So the blue bar on the left is your constrained projects or the projects in the funding. And the orange bar on the right is your unconstrained project list. So this is just the amount of projects that are funded and unfunded by scenario. There was $9.9 billion of project requests, and we are forecasting that we would have about $6.9 billion between local, state, and federal funds available to the region between now and 2049. So we can't pay for all the projects, but we really wanted to highlight kind of how many projects we believe will be able to be funded and completed. As you can see on scenarios D and E, the transit-focused scenarios, those are very high dollar in terms of their costs, but they're a singular in nature. So one transit project can stretch several miles, and so on a project count, it's gonna be one project that could be hundreds of millions of dollars, and so that's why you see the decrease in the amount of total projects that can be funded in those transit-focused scenarios. All right, we did do some surveying over the last couple of years, including one survey last summer from May to October of 2025. And this was really designed to inform participants about the RTP-SCS process and gather their preferences on the strategies, the themes within those strategies to help support kind of which scenario best fit kind of their alignment. And so you can see here the scenarios C, D, and E performed best from the community participation in the survey, 555 respondents. And the scenario, survey 2, really we provided the performance of each of these scenarios through our model to the survey participants. This was conducted in February to March, so 1 month of data here. And you can see where the community aligned themselves in terms of each of the scenarios based off questions that they answered. And so this is the survey 2 scenario performance results. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Santosh, who's going to walk through the modeling information for you today.
Thank you, Paul, and good afternoon, everyone. So we looked at the high-level overview of 5 scenarios. We have defined the land use strategies and the transportation strategies for each of those scenarios as well. Now we feed that information to the regional travel demand model that we have. We call it activity-based model. And we take the results out and do some processing. So to identify or to compare those scenarios, we need some kind of indicators to compare between the scenarios. And that's why we have come up with a list of the indicators. There are altogether 12 performance indicators, and 10 of those indicators were simply carried over from our last SES. 2 of them were added freshly this cycle, one by the EJ subcommittee and the other one by the SES subcommittee. So I'll walk you through all the performance indicators, starting with the public health, a critical element measuring the health benefit in the Fresno County. The second one would be the clean air, very important for the Central Valley and the Fresno County because of the pollution. So we'll measure the pollution in the clean air category. The third is the access to destination. This one measures the mobility within the Fresno County. So it will measure the average trip time from the residence to the destination. Can be a workplace or service, shopping, social recreation, anything. So we'll measure how efficiently people are moving in the Fresno County. Next slide, please. So the access to destination in the disadvantaged communities, similar to the last one, but we are just focusing on the disadvantaged communities in this particular category. Agricultural land consumption, very important indicator in our region. Being a prime agriculture region, will measure how many acres of the farmlands are projected to be converted into the residential and the commercial development. Active transportation index will see the number of the bike and walk trips. Next slide. Quality roads. So we'll see how many lane miles of the road maintenance projects are there and how we are doing in the maintenance category. Then after that, we'll see the miles driven, which is simply the vehicle miles traveled. And we'll measure what is the average amount of the travel for a typical day in Fresno County for, per capita. So we'll see the VMT per capita. GHG reduction, it is the critical element or the indicator in our SES process. We'll see how much reduction we are getting in each of the scenarios, and we have to meet that 13% target set by the CARB. That is the 13% reduction in 2035 compared to the 2005 levels. Compact urban form will see the efficiency and the sustainable land development in this category. Financial investment in the disadvantaged communities will see how much investment we are making in the disadvantaged communities, and it was actually recommended by the EJ subcommittee. The last one is the critical environmental resources. This one was added by the SCS subcommittee. We'll look at how much critical habitat and the wetland areas are being consumed in each of these scenarios. We utilize 2 different data sets, one the federal U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on the top, and the bottom one is the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. We combined those 2 data sets and we identified the critical habitat area and the wetland, mainly around the waterways and some other mountains regions in the Fresno County. Okay, so here's the summary of all the performance indicators. We are looking at the quantitative number from each of these performance indicators across the scenarios. Definitely the first one, public health, scenario C is the winner there, scoring the max public health benefit. After that, the access to destination. Although it looks close to the other scenarios, we'll have to note that even the difference in the second decimal makes a significant impact, because we are seeing about 2.5 million trips happening in the Fresno County every day. So if you just save 0.01 minute for each trip, then you just multiply that with the 2.5 million trips happening in Fresno County every day, and then you sum up for a year, then that's a huge savings in the travel time. After that, agricultural land consumption. As Paul mentioned, once we move from scenario A and B towards C, D, and E, we are going towards efficient land use, utilization, and then the transit-focused scenario. So we are consuming lesser area for the residential and the commercial development. So we are seeing the scenario C, D, and E are performing equally and and consuming the lesser agricultural land than A and B. After that, we are seeing the miles driven, which is the VMT per capita. We are seeing the scenario C has the least VMT. And then the GHG reduction. So since scenario C has the least VMT per capita, we are seeing the maximum GHG reduction for scenario C. If we have lesser the VMT, more would be the GHG reduction. So that's the inverse correlation between VMT per capita and the GHG reduction. And that 12.82% is showing that we are definitely meeting that 13%, although we are seeing that all of these scenarios are close to hitting the 13%, and we can technically say that, yes, they are meeting the 13% target. But, you know, the more we can achieve is better for us, and scenario C is definitely doing
Is there
best.
a way to do more high level on this? This is like, I'm looking around this room and everybody's glossed over. Like this is months and months and months of research.
Yeah.
And to digest all these numbers and try to make sense of it, is there a narrative like what overall, what does it mean?
Yeah, I mean, what we're showing here is between all 5 scenarios that the numbers, the model is really pointing towards scenario C is the highest performing scenario. I think that's what we're really trying to highlight
That
here.
we honestly, I mean, from
I know.
a
It's
high
a
level,
lot.
this is like this is down below the weeds. It's in the roots. And I think for this body, we need to have higher level, but otherwise you're going to lose us.
Yes. Sorry.
Staff
Apologies.
recommends scenario C.
Yeah. Apologies for that. I was
Trying
trying
to show
to.
our work, Mayor, that I don't.
Not as available to digest it in this level.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand.
Can you
And
find
I was
this
trying to make it a high level. So yeah, I just finished up, and the critical environmental resources scenario C, D, and E are performing great. So in summary, scenario C seems to be a winner in this summary of the performance indicators. Yeah.
All right. So just touching on next steps, what we do with once the decision's made on the preferred scenario by this board, staff will then direct our environmental impact review team to begin their analysis of that preferred scenario under the NEPA and CEQA compliance guidelines. With that, a draft of the RTP SES and that EIR will be released in May for public review, and the final approval of the 2026 RTP SES is scheduled for August.
For those who may not be familiar with this process, because there are several people who this is their first go around with the Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy. So the Regional Transportation Plan is the number one priority for us under our federal designation as the Metropolitan Planning Organization. The Sustainable Community Strategy is a state requirement that more or less functions as a chapter of the RTP. Under the state requirement, we are obligated to reduce our GHG pollutants by 13%. That is what scenario C gets us closest to, which is why it's being recommended along with a host of other metrics that are used in the modeling to demonstrate, the progress that we make toward those range of metrics that you saw described tonight. The consequence for failing to accomplish these goals is the rescission of accessibility to multiple state funding programs, many of which are under SB1. And so that's what's at stake. If we fail to hit the GHG targets, we lose access to multiple transportation funding streams and some housing funding streams under Senate Bill 1, and could potentially risk the certification of the Regional Transportation Plan.
What are the other, besides SB1, what are the other transportation funding from the state we might lose?
Well,
AX
there's multiple programs within SB1. So AHSC, for one, I'm not sure if RIMRA. I think RIMRA is affected. Yeah,
one is
so
they all in SB1.
I believe they are. I'm not entirely certain if all of them are.
Is it anything that deals with a gas tax?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
that's
I
correct.
think ABX 86 is.
Yep, gas tax potential revenue would be at potentially
Right.
at stake.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the stakes.
And which
here.
housing?
AHSC, the affordable,
Yeah.
The affordable
sustainable
state
community
standards.
strategy. Yeah, sustainable communities fund.
Okay. And when's the deadline for the regional transportation plan?
So the certification runs out at the end of the fiscal year. Our goal is to have this to you by August for final approval.
Ooh, okay. And how does that tie into any other things we're doing or community groups are doing?
How does it tie into other things that the community? Well, I can tell you that last month when the revenue side of this was presented to you, Measure C was a major factor. Some local sales tax measure was certainly contemplated and assumed in our modeling as part of the revenue picture to get us to the improvements that were discussed tonight.
I guess if I can say it in here, our Measure C is set to expire in 2027, right?
Correct.
And so what would happen in our ability to plan for scenario C absent that continued funding?
It would tank.
Yeah, no scenario would be possible.
Right.
No scenario possible.
Right. But the for the purposes of this exercise, the fact is we still have the measure, and so we are able to assume that the measure will continue.
Yeah.
Now, functionally, we would lose that opportunity in the next go around.
So
process repeats.
Not
every
not
4
only
years.
would this our plan tank to implement as a result of the plan not being able to be realized, we would then on the top of that lose state funding.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That is absolutely a possibility. Yes.
Any other comments?
I had some questions.
Motion for scenario C.
Okay, we got a motion for,
There's a comment.
we got a quick comment here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking at it and see, I'm thinking A gives us the most amount of local control in our zoning, in our planning. C moves us a little bit towards more of the trend. So I'm looking which one, because the numbers aren't that far. So to me, we now, since it's not that far, we got to look at what gives us the most amount of local control as I plan my city. And so I'm asking which one gives cities the most local control of their zones, of their transit. So is it A? Is my assumption correct?
I want to make this point very clearly for everybody. This plan does not control any of your land use zoning. You have full control.
You mentioned a little bit the potentially
what this plan does, it does. So each of your zones have a range of density for that zone, right?
Mhm.
So there's a low and high. All we do in our planning is towards higher density in the transit scenarios. We basically tune the knob. We don't change your land use scenario, and we stay within the bounds that are allowed in your land use, in your general plans. But we say in the transit scenarios, hey, we think transit will be more supportive of higher density residential development around those transit nodes. And so we do, the density goes up slightly around those stations, but we don't have the authority here at Fresno COG to change any of your general plans or any of your land use.
So we're making certain assumptions.
Yeah, there's no land use change. All there is amplifying the
A
density.
gives us, I guess there's less. A keeps us the same more.
So
There.
A is really representative of, the mix between single family and multifamily, the
Yeah.
density, right, would be, it's more in line with the historical development of Fresno County.
Yeah.
But again, the land use changes do not occur within our model. We don't have the ability to change that. That really is, we take all of the general plans of all the cities in the county and implement that into the model. All we can do is say, hey, we think the residential density potentially within the ranges of your land use will be slightly higher around transit nodes in those transit scenarios. That's really the only assumption we're making that's changed.
Yeah, I just think this is just another way to control land use within the cities through the state. And now they're using transportation, but it's going to start here. And so the scenario that gives us the most flexibility, I feel, is scenario A, because the numbers aren't that much, right? The difference. I'm looking at it. I know there's more green in it, but I mean, it's like point something. You said point something is huge, but on paper, it's still just point something, but it allows the cities to kind of, RENA already controls all that density that we do, and we hate it already, right? You're going, hey, that's got to be more multifamily. And so now this adds on to that, which potentially I think they're going to take this and go until all the housing element numbers of all the cities comply with this. We're also going to decertify some of those, our housing element numbers. I just look at the future and I worry that if we're taking this, it just moves us closer to where now someone else is telling us how we plan our city. So I would push for A because it allows us to remain the most like what we are now. Because I think some cities are growing and some cities have their plans set. And so, because if C was convincing where it's going to be 15% here and all that stuff, I would go for it. Let's go for it. But I look at all the numbers. It's very close. Very, very close. So that's just my pitch.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we have a motion and then we have a second. With that, we got to go through that motion, right?
What is he motioning on?
So his motion, scenario C, the recommendation of staff.
I agree with Mayor Vaughn. So
Okay.
we can take the roll
So
call.
I have for clarification, I guess, maybe, just to the staff, how does scenario C contrast with measure C? Or what are the likenesses?
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
And
that's good.
I'd like to, if we're gonna make a vote, and there's a lot of data, a lot of good stuff. Originally, I'm thinking, you know what? I'd like to thumb through the report myself and kind of do more processing on it. But it sounds like folks
think-
want just action on it. So can you just share?
Yeah, so at this time, obviously, we do not know what the parameters of the future Measure C is going to be at this time. So right now, we have a local funding stream, and how that local funding is distributed changes by scenario, right? It supports essentially the scenarios, but moving forward, if Measure C does get approved this fall by voters, then we'll have very tight parameters around how that money can be spent. And so 4 years from now in the 2030 cycle, if there is a Measure C and it does have very, defined boundaries of how the funding can be spent, that would then flow into the scenarios. Basically, it would limit the variety of scenarios that I don't know if it would be possible to have this much variety, just given that right now we're assuming a measure, but we don't know exactly how much funding is going to each type of funding category. So in 4 years from now, you're going to have another crack at this, and either the measure is not going to be there and we're going to have a drastically different RTP, or the measure will be there, but the amount of the variety of scenarios will likely have to be reduced because we'll know exactly how much funding can be spent locally by category. I'd say in terms of, you can see there's multiple road focused scenarios, there's multiple transit focused scenarios, and there's one scenario C, the one that staff is recommending, that is what I call the balanced approach, where it's just as much funding in road capacity improvement projects as transit improvements. So we've kind of taken like the Switzerland position, maybe you can say, in terms of the scenarios. And that's just reflective of the fact that we are uncertain, right, about what the local funding stream is going to look like in terms of is it going to be more focused on transit and focused on road
and this is not a commitment, right? This is just a preference.
Yeah, so
it is a commitment.
This is our RTP. You will in 4 years reevaluate. I mean, every 4 years you come back.
So it doesn't mean that we're gonna live forever with these.
Yeah, this isn't in stone forever. You come back every 4 years and
Okay.
reevaluate it.
All right,
And-
thank you.
Why are we having to do this before August, Robert?
Because our regional transportation plan is certified through the end of September. And so without federal, right, through the feds. And so this is a condition of the state, the SCS. The preferred scenario is a function of the state process under the Sustainable Community Strategy. That is tied to the RTP in terms of the timeline. And so if we lose certification of the RTP going past the deadline, then we lose access to federal funds.
Thank you.
And so I would also note, to Paul's point, it's not just staff. We have the SCS subcommittee, the RTP roundtable, the TTC, and the PAC have all recommended scenario C.
Thank you, Robert. The legal counsel wants to say a few words.
And to remind everybody, today you're only voting to give direction on a preference to study in an EIR. This is not a final commitment. So when that final EIR comes back, you can still tweak whatever the final direction is.
Okay. So we have a motion and we have a second. Or any
Can
final-
I just my
What?
Appreciate
last
that. You could have
pitch, my
jumped in
last
about
pitch for A.
15 minutes ago.
The total number for roads on A is 4.97, for B is 4.84, and C is even less. So I'm saying, if your roads, this A is the one.
I do want to highlight something that I get what you're saying. I do have to state this. We are very close to not hitting our GHG target, and every little bit of GHG reduction is critical in order for us to all be in compliance and to get those state funding sources. So if we take scenario A, we go through the process and we find at the end of the process that we're not going to hit our GHG target, we're all in a position of having to kind of live with those consequences.
And I know, Hermano, too, you said that this C will cause us to lose control as a local jurisdiction. I think scenario D and scenario E would definitely, but I think scenario C strikes a good balance. And, you know, the state has already put restrictions on us through GHG reductions, VMT, our RENA numbers. So, you know, the promotion of density is already there. So I think scenario C is the right way to go. It's a good balance for smart growth, public transportation, doesn't mandate, you know, light rail at this point in time. And so I think it's the right way to go. So second.
Mayor Valdez, you have one final thought?
Yeah, just one final thought for me. The reason why I support scenario C is being from a rural community. We already are seeing our agricultural land attacked by big solar projects. C reduces the amount of agricultural land that will be consumed, on top of the fact that Fireball is in border of San Joaquin River. Protecting our river and protecting our vital resource of water is important for me too. And C also helps reduce the amount of acres that's going to take as well. So that's why at Fireball, we support C.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that's what I'm trying to get. I've been trying to get. We have a motion and a second. Do we do a
I think we need public comment.
Public comments? Anybody from the public would like to say anything except Moses? Oh. All right, bringing it back.
Call the vote.
Then we go motion second. Everybody in favor say aye.
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 That was more than. Any abstains? Any opposed? No?
So noted.
Clovis.
Clovis,
One
City of
opposed?
Clovis for the record.
Yeah, no. With it.
Okay. Thank you. We got one opposed.
It's a way of life. It's a way of life.
All right. Thank you. Item B. On item C now, Calvin's Joint Powers Agreement. Can we get a report from Les, please?
Okay, in March, at the March meeting of the Calvans board, the executive director gave the board a PowerPoint presentation, which delivered a very stark financial assessment of the agency's financial condition. Now, this board may recollect that in 2024, we brought an assessment of the Calvans financial condition to the board. I've included that assessment in this package so you have it to read over. I've also updated that assessment to the current situation. I'm not going to go over either of those in great detail, but I am going to, could you put the first slide on the board, page 6? Go through their balance sheet, and I promise you this won't be as arcane as it looks. I'm going to try to be direct and try to explain to you exactly what the problem is. Now, the first highlighted number you see up there is $13,406,000. That's their fair revenues. That's what they're charging to operate their van pools. That covers 92% of their operating costs. So they don't really have a lot of other revenues other than what they collect when they do their van pools. Now then, when you look at their operating budget, it's basically in balance. They do a fairly good job of staying within their operating budget, but their operating budget doesn't include one key number. And if you look down at the next highlighted number, you'll see this 2,165,970. That is unfunded depreciation, which it represents the cost to replace their vehicles when they get old. Now, when they first started this agency in 2011, FCOG, FCRTA, Kings County, and maybe one of the other agencies donated several $1 million worth of vans to Cal Vans to get them started with the idea that you'll take the ball and run with it, which they did. However, when those vans became fully depreciated and they had to replace them, that's when their cash flow started having problems with, because they do not have capital grants to buy their vehicles. What they do is they go out and lease them. And these leases have an interest cost. And that brings us down to this third yellow number down here, $906,541. That's the interest they're paying every year, non-productive expenses that they're paying to lease their vans because they don't have capital grants to buy their vehicles outright. That interest expense also includes some interest on their lease for the building that whenever King's COG withdrew from the JPA in 23, they had to rent a new building. So that's part of that. But that's almost $1 million in non-productive expenses that they're paying out because they don't have a revenue source to buy vans. So what does all that mean? Well, these last two numbers, 85,000 and 1.5 million, they start off the year $85,000 in the hole. At the end of the year, when you account for all their operating revenues, their depreciation, their operating expenses, their other revenues, their interest expense, their net position went down from 85,000 down to $1.5 million in the hole. Now, in 2020, they had $4.3 million in net position. So their net position has deteriorated over the last 5 years, $5.8 million, which is a little bit over $1 million a year. Go back and look at that interest expense. Okay, they're digging a hole. So could you go to the next slide? Here's where they're at right now. The first number you see up there on the left, $5,456. That's their total cash position that they have available. And that's not really available. That's restricted funds, but $5,456. Now, when you have $120,000 payroll coming up every 2 weeks, that's not a lot of cash. Furthermore, their cash flow is very seasonal. During the summertime, they make hay while the sun shines because the farm workers are moving around through the fields. They're collecting revenues. During the wintertime, that all dries up. And from November to February of this last year, they had an $800,000 cash deficit. Okay. So where'd they get that? Well, let's go down to this number over on the other side of the balance sheet. $3,780,539. What that is unearned revenue. Now, what in the heck is unearned revenue? What that is they took out, since 2017, they've been taking down, applying for grants with the HCD. That's a the Department of Housing and Community Development, to provide micro van pools to some of these low-income housing developments that are occurring in your cities, your rural cities. And they don't have the money to buy the vans because electric vans cost a lot of money. I think they would need an additional $18 million if they were going to use these grants. But at the beginning of that process, the state advanced them $3.7 million for the first project. Now, you'd think if the state gave them $3.7 million, you'd go up to the cash position and see $3.7 million in cash, right? Go up there and look again, $5,456. The only reason they're having a cash crisis right now and didn't have it in 2024 is because they borrowed that $3.7 million that the state gave them for these grant processes. So their presentation was pretty stark. I'm guessing that they probably need at least $1.5 million. But then when you add $2 million worth of depreciation and the fact that they got to pay the state $3.7 million, I don't know what they need. They're talking borrowing money again, but in 2018 and 2020, they played that game. They overextended themselves in debt. They had to have a austerity budget hearing, make a lot of cuts. They've paid those loans off, but now they're back to where they're entering that cycle again. So now they're talking about perhaps what they need to do is have grants or member dues from the member agency. You are a member agency. They're talking about asking you and their other members for money. And really, that's the only alternative they have to stay viable at this point. Now, do y'all have money to give them?
No.
No. We distribute TDA money and it's all programmed in FCRTA's budget, and what's left over, we send to the rural cities to use for streets and roads. They're talking about FTA 5307 money. That's urbanized area money. It's aimed at FACTS and Clovis Public Transit. I don't think you have the money unless you want to dig real deep. So how are they doing? I think the season is starting to pick back up. They've made it through the hard part of the year. They're probably can keep their nose a little bit above the water. Maybe. I can't say that for sure. They may can keep their nose above the water for another 8 months. But I can just about guarantee you when November comes around and they start parking their van pools, they are going to have a major cash crisis. So I think that's about all I have for you there. The recommendation, what was the recommendation here, was to
Withdraw from JPA.
authorize the executive director to notify Calvans in writing of FCOG's intent to withdraw from the joint powers agreement within 180 days. That is stipulated in the JPA. We can't speed that up. During that 80-day period, if they did something miraculous and solved this, we'd be back to you to report the news. You could reconsider your decision. But that's the recommendation. I'm going to turn it over to y'all and y'all can do what you
Thank you,
need to
Les.
do.
We got a
here.
comment here, Mayor. So,
I'm our representative on Calvans. Thanks, Les, for that incredibly sugar-coated version. Trust me, that was sugar-coated. If I'm being honest, they're 45 days of solvency at best. I think November's super hopeful, assuming that we have a great summer. It's tough. I think I brought this up a few months back that they were in some serious financial trouble. I think that they were going to throw a Hail Mary when they got a new director over there. But, he came in and it was a long meeting and it was a lot of talk, but at the end of the day, they have nothing sustainable. There's no plan. What they're looking for is one-time infusions. What we're really dealing with here isn't the system. The system that they've set up is broken. The need is there. The mission is absolutely admirable and we should support it. And I think we need to support the mission of the transportation, especially with the farm workers. But the problem is this is the wrong mechanism financially for it. We need to find a way to support them, but we can't support it through Calvans, is my opinion on that. It's just not solvent. If we give these one-time infusions, we're going to kick the can down the road a couple more months, truly. But they just need to fix their system. So I'm with Les. I've spent time with other directors on this and tried to talk through solutions. Everything is just a total pipe dream. When you ultimately crunch the numbers, you just can't balance this sheet no matter what. I mean, 94% with fare fees, and they're not making it. Even if we give them a one-time infusion, it'll get them some vans for a little while, but then we're back in the hole. So really, I really just fully support subsidizing the service. I just don't support subsidizing this organization to continue to fail when it's non-solvent. We're not helping them truly by giving them that. We're pushing them down the road, and everything that they're hoping for that's a fix is a total pipe dream that they've tried before that hasn't worked. I would love to stay in this program if it was going to work, but Calvans is just not going to work. I think we need to figure out, remove from this JPA, give them that 180 days that they need, and then start looking for the other programs that we can subsidize that are in fact sustainable. I don't know exactly what those are. I know Enterprise is working through some. I know some private entities are working through some. And removing ourselves from this JPA doesn't mean that we can't subsidize the service. It just means that we're not going to subsidize the failing organization any longer. So I'll answer whatever questions I can. I think Les, to me and Les.
I think
Chair?
I'm gonna say a quick thing and then you go.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And Mayor Purcell did cover it. The JPA issue is separate and distinct from the fact that we contract through Measure C with CalVans to subsidize individual van pools. That arrangement can continue regardless of whether we are part of the JPA. Just that's all I was going to say, and he already pointed that out.
Thank you, Robert. Mayor?
So just in brief, the reason why this was empowered early on was because when the 13 farm workers died that were sitting on milk crates and buckets in the van between 5 Points and Huron. That's why this came to existence. That's why the Fresno County stepped up in Measure C and committed $20 million. I think that basically gave birth to this entity. You know, it was a Kings County program that evolved into a statewide, and I think a multi-state with Arizona involved nowadays. And we can't ignore the need with farm workers. We can't have 13 more deaths of farm workers. And so we do got to figure this out. The 180 days, that's great. Maybe there's some way where we could help them become the entity that ideally is self-sustaining. And I'm not going to say that that they're going to be able to keep it alive with what they get from farm workers, because that's not going to happen. You know, in this industry, we are always subsidizing corporations. We're always subsidizing developers. So how do we figure this out to subsidize farm workers who are the, you know, the bloodline of this industry, of this county, of this region, right? So I want to work with you guys. I want to help figure that out. I think there is a way.
Yeah, I'd be right. I want to subsidize not just farm workers, but I want to subsidize the transportation need. Because it's more than just farm workers, it's everyone. And everyone that has the need. We just need to figure out a different mechanism to get this through.
Yeah.
Wasn't there already
I
some
think
kind
Mayor
of,
Dyer next, and then we.
no, it would be him and then me.
I don't think the question is whether or not we withdraw from the joint powers agreement within 180 days. I think that's a given, right?
Yep.
I think the two issues are at hand, or is what I heard on the short term. You think that they're going to be out of cash in 45 days. We're heading into farm worker season. How do we continue with that service until August or September? And secondly, how do we financially support a transportation system or mechanism outside of CalVans? Who else provides that service? And if there isn't any, how do we create one?
I can address.
I don't think there is. I just wanted to say one thing, is didn't we already have, I think Maria, in your area, wasn't there already a casualty with farm workers that were in an accident and it was not CalVans? So if that goes away, we're gonna have the same situation happen again, and you're gonna have more accidents like that, because they're gonna try to accommodate all the rides, all the workers to get in one vehicle.
You know,
He's got
I'm sorry.
Mayor. Go ahead, Mayor.
So I was there in 2005, 2006 on the Measure C Citizens Oversight. And we supported the public program, which was part of King's CAG. Remember, guys? I'm looking at the veteranos over here. And we supported the public program, the one that we had more ability to influence and adjust and work with. Obviously, we kind of stepped back and we let it, you know, get into this position. Enterprise was working hard to get in there. My concern with Enterprise is that they got their shareholders. They want to make money. The farm worker industry, I mean, there's not a lot of money there. So I supported the public, you know, option. It sounds like people are saying, well, let's reinvent a public option. Well, if we have the entity already, how could we fix it if it's already there? And it's multiple counties from throughout the state of California.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think 180 days is plenty of time as a businessman. If I had a problem, I will take care of it. If I don't have rides in this case, I'll take care of it. I think 180 days is plenty of time to allow private industry to come in and figure something out. If it's 45 days, then I don't know what to say about that, that you said, Brandon, but I think this is a good opportunity for us to consider stepping back and allow private industry to come in, whatever that means with the farm worker industry. But this is a great opportunity. I don't think government, we don't always have to be here trying to figure out that problem, every single problem. I think it is a good opportunity for see what kind of comes through maybe in the next few months. If it's something that then we could help subsidize, perhaps. But my opinion, not just this, a lot of stuff, but this even, I think private industry could do it better than we can. Or Cal Vans, who clearly is being mismanaged, who keeps on getting subsidized. Anyway, just my take.
I got a comment, Chair.
Thank
I
you.
was on the board 2020. I took the baton from Mayor Leone. Same thing. We went through it. Moses said the same thing about the financial problems. And I was on their financial committee. It's just a broken model. It's like we see that, but it's a noble cause and it's something that should be continued. We just got to find a way to make it work. They always talked about when I was on the board, we don't want to compete with the local governments. We don't want to compete. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do fare box. We're not going to do any of that. We're not in competition with FCRTA. Well, why not? I mean, they needed to do some of that because they needed to raise that revenue. They just can't sustain themselves given what they have. When I was on in 2020, I think Brandon saw it too. In 2026, they're always looking for more cash infusion. They're feast or famine, with the on and off seasons. And this isn't getting any better. Just a concern for COG as part of the JPA. There are a lot of employees there who have pensions. There's going to be residual expenses. What kind of exposure does COG have for the debts of Cal Vans?
Thank you. I think Robert wanted to say a quick comment.
Well, I'll try and address. I've heard a couple of different questions that I'm going to try and address. Starting with the question about the what are we doing in the interim? So we have taken steps. We basically have two different under the Measure C program. We have two different separate and distinct van pool programs. One is a commuter van pool for operations like prisons, for example, where it's a mass commute situation. And then there's the ag worker van pool program where we're talking about here. We have seen a migration on the commuter side toward enterprise rent-a-van. We are working with them right now to see if they can move into the ag van pool space. We're not certain that that can happen because of the difficulty inherent in the model, in the business model. One of the issues, for example, with Cal Vans is that their program, that is true, right? One of the issues, for example, in the Cal Vans model is that it is fuel inclusive. So the problems that Les was describing have been especially exacerbated within the last couple of months since the beginning of the year with gas prices, for example. So we are not 100% that enterprise can take this on, is going to be willing because they are a for-profit organization. However, they are committed to at least looking into it, and they're committed to doing what they can to help sustain Cal Vans as long as they can. So we continue to explore that avenue. To Mayor Robertson's question, to Mayor Robertson's question about our liabilities, the JPA does give us general liability release from the overall debt. However, there are administrative, and I think you touched on it, the administrative expenses that we could be liable for under the JPA, including pensions. And so that is what we would be avoiding by removing ourselves from the Joint Powers Authority.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, so I think everybody here pretty much is in an agreement with the what the recommendation is pulling out and giving that 180 days. I think the ultimate issue that we're facing right now is what do we do to continue helping the individuals that rely on this form of transportation? My question would be, can FCRTA add any ag routes again to kind of help? And Moses, I know you're still in the audience, and maybe in the meantime, as we figure this out, this broken model out, is that a possibility to add ag routes?
Before I left FCRTA back in December 31st, doesn't seem like I left, but anyway, multiple hats. So anyway, the state of California contacted FCRTA and indicated the situation that Les talked about, that $3.2 million in the arrears that they had taken. in advance and not bought the vans. And there were several affordable housing projects in the rural areas, one being in Kalinga, another one being in Sanger, and another one being in Orange Cove. So they contacted me and said, hey, can you work with us? By all means. So the state offered to provide monthly bus passes to the residents of these affordable housing complexes, okay? The ones that lived within the urbanized areas that have affordable housing. So this model works very well, and the Sustainable Growth Council has funding for that to directly apply or provide it. Now they could do that in the rural areas. I don't know how many are within the sphere of influence in the city of Fresno or Clovis, but that model could be done. They're very amenable to that. And I think, Mayor from Fireball here, that's a good possibility. There are other alternatives. As Robert indicated, enterprise is there for profit. They're looking at the bottom line. I don't think you're going to get a big bang for your buck. You might get limited services for the same amount that's going out. So you've really got to examine what other models are available above and beyond the existing public transit that's out there. One, two, what kind of subsidies are being done, obviously through Measure C, because bus passes are afforded through the measure for seniors, the disabled, veterans, and farm workers as well. So there are limited resources that can be deployed to fill that gap in the interim until a larger plan or something with more detail that can be taken place throughout Fresno County. Now, keep in mind, they also operate outside of Fresno County, and that's where you get the overlap. That's where you get what Les was talking about, the leak in the financial situation. So I think it's beyond Fresno County, and I think if you focus, if you don't mind me saying, on Fresno County and stay within the context of Fresno County, and we can keep those expenses dialed in within the Fresno County of your jurisdictions here, there might be some interim triage that we can apply in the interim to address some of these issues in that transition. But it's going to be a long haul, and you can't come in and completely replace the program, as Mayor Purcell indicated, with that. It's going to be a transition, and it's got to be one that, might take a little bit of time, number one, and it could expand to something else depending on what enterprise comes back with as far as cost. And I'm hoping they're sensitive to the situation because it is a dire situation. It's a triage approach, but the problem is there, but I think it can be dealt with in small pieces, if you will. Sure.
Or we could pay farm workers a living wage and they could transport themselves. But then we'll be paying 10, 15 bucks a head of lettuce, right? So just to remind folks why we're subsidizing, right? But, apart from that, let me ask our representative to Calvans, did you guys engage Congress members on budget items?
Yeah, so specifically, the new director was a lobbyist prior to this. And I know that he is working to try to do that. And, I think where we're at right now is, I think we all agree on the JPA, but it's what do we do now to make sure that this service doesn't go away? And the one thing I will say is we're a powerful group and there are state dollars out there. I think that is one of the paths that we take is to try to get money through the state to supplement a program that is properly ran for that. If there's one thing that Mayor Leon has, it's a good voice. I think that especially you heading that up, you've forged this path before. I think that there are ways to subsidize a program through the state. I think that's one path that we can take. And, when I say 45 days of lack of solvency, it could be very much longer. It's going to depend on what their ridership comes in at. So I don't think that us pulling out, they're not going to go away at the summer. We're going to still be in this for 180 days and we can still contribute the exact same financially that we always have. So we're not pulling out of that financially. I wouldn't come to you guys if I thought it was going to shut down farm workers getting to work. There's no way. But that's just not where we're at. What we're looking to do is limit our liability to an organization that's failing. But I also, at the same time, easy to say that, I want to work together with you to try to figure out a solution, but it's going to be a little bit more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So calling back my time? Nah. we can't fence Fresno County and think we're gonna solve it because a lot of folks from here on go to Paso Robles. They've gone to Madera. So it goes beyond one county, you know, and sometimes it's from Salinas to Huron, from Huron to Yuma. So it's multi-regional. So it's not, you know, so just I want to let folks know that if you didn't know, you know, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? None. Going to the public? Anyone from the public? None. Bringing it back. Final thoughts or motions or
So who's putting together the plan? We have 180 days. I don't know if we're solid financially, but we're in this for 180 days. We're making payments. What happens after that? Somebody's got to come up with that plan for us.
Yeah, so I will be working closely with Les and County Council on, you know, basically we're going to file a letter, assuming that the board accepts the staff recommendation.
Yeah.
We'll be filing a letter to withdraw. This would not affect the program under Measure C. We would still continue to, and there may be avenues, you know, that we can pursue through the subsidy program that already exists. To bolster that. We have attempted that in the past. That's another factor affecting Calvans is that ridership overall has reduced, but we can work at that angle. And so we would be filing the letter to begin the countdown, and you know, County Council hopefully can assist us with that, and then you know we will keep you apprised of the situation, but. We do know that, you know, the membership, as Mayor Purcell mentioned, the likelihood is that they are going to manage to stay in business for at least another 180 days.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we follow the staff's recommendation to withdraw from its joint powers agreement effective October 1st, 2026. And that staff come back with a recommendation
yes.
In 90 days as to how we're going to proceed beyond that time.
I'll second that.
I think so. Yeah. All right, we got a motion, we got a second. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion pass. Next, we move on to Caltrans report, 3 minutes.
Hi. Good evening, Mr. Chair, and thank you, and congratulations, Mayor Martinez and Mayor Purcell on your new roles. Excited to see that. I also want to extend congratulations to Fresno COG and Simran for completion of the Mobility Hub feasibility study. It was a very well designed and very well executed study, and Caltrans was proud to provide financial support for that. A couple of staffing updates. The statewide Caltrans director, Dina El Tawanzi, had her Senate confirmation hearing last week. The Senate Rules Committee voted unanimously, excuse me, to move her nomination forward to the Senate floor. Don't have a date on that yet, but we're assuming that that's going to go through without any hitches. On a personal note, I don't know if you folks remember, but when I was originally introduced a year ago, this was a limited term position for up to 1 year. My 1 year expires at the end of this month, and I have decided to return to my old position. And so taking over the reins effective April 1st, I'd like to introduce Philip Vallejo, who's sitting behind me. Philip is currently the Deputy District Director for Environmental, and he has graciously accepted the opportunity to become the Planning Deputy. So Philip, I think you did wave to everybody.
Thank you.
So be kind to Phil. And I do want to say thank you for the hospitality and generosity and the friendships that I developed with some of you. It's been a wonderful experience over the last year. In the interest of time, I'm going to make my updates brief. I know we're running a little late. The State Transportation Improvement Program, that was adopted at this last month's CTC meeting. I do want to talk briefly about the Caltrans District 6 Walk Assessment Program. This is something that was born here in District 6 and has actually received some awards statewide. The Walk Assessment Program is an opportunity for Caltrans to come out and interact with our local partners. It is exactly what it sounds like. We walk your communities. We walk some of the areas that you have some concerns about. We interact with some stakeholders, community partners, your staff, yourself, if you're available. And we identify needs and opportunities. And these needs and opportunities can go a step further in becoming future grant applications and help Caltrans develop some projects. Really excited about our next walk assessment, which is going to be in the city of Kerman on the 15th of April. So we're going to be looking at state routes 145 and 180. So if that's something that you're interested in, hopefully you all are, feel free to reach out to Mr. Vallejo. Yeah, I'll be sure to post that for everybody. Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant Program. We have completed our review locally. It's gone up to headquarters. Headquarters review is now complete. Now it's with upper management for review. ATP Cycle 8 guidelines went before the CTC this month as well. The guidelines were approved. The call for applications is now open, and the deadline for applications is June 22nd. SB1 Cycle 5, so that is getting underway now. Cycle 5 includes local partnership program, trade corridor enhancement program, and the solutions for congested corridors program. We're expecting adoption of the guidelines this summer with a call for project nominations in the fall or winter. So the CTC has been holding some workshops on those programs. They are going to be in April. So if you're interested in attending some of those workshops, look online, the CTC, and you can find those. Very brief project updates. A couple that I do want to highlight is the Clean California project that we've been working on for for quite a while now. This is the enhancement at the 41 and Tulare Avenue and Divisadero interchange. This is where we're refurbishing the murals, adding some rock blankets and some stamped concrete. Just about done with that project. We're wrapping up what we call plant establishment, which should be done by the end of April when the new bridge rail is also going to be installed. The State Route 33 project in Coalinga is now under construction. It began on March 9th. The Dickinson Roundabout project, I don't know if you've noticed in your drive out on the 180, but the utility relocation will be starting soon, but the tree removal has already been completed at the future roundabout. We're expecting construction to fully kick off in the fall because of some PG&E utility relocations. Excelsior Expressway project, we got the bids in on that. The bids came in 23.76% below the engineer's estimate, which was nice. It frees up some money. That is going to go to construction midsummer of this year. Shaver Lake Viaduct project, we are anticipating starting construction next Tuesday or Wednesday, barring any unforeseen circumstances. We all know those happen. And I think the last update that I have for you is something that I haven't talked about in a few months is South Fresno projects, South Fresno 99, the North and American Avenue projects. Those are the ones that were sued under CEQA. The judge has 4 months to issue the ruling, and that ruling is expected in April. So keep you updated on that at the next board meeting. Mayor Martinez, we need to talk about 33, so I'd love to grab your ear briefly after the meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for the update. Any questions for Caltrans?
Yeah, just one. You talked about the Tulare 41 plants.
Yes,
Does that include trees?
it's a great question. I don't know if they did include any trees in that.
It's for trails, right? Or
No, this is the beautification project.
yeah, beautification at Tulare 41. We did the murals and everything.
Yeah.
But you don't know if it involves trees?
No, we can find out though for you.
If you can,
Next meeting
we
here.
try to do an annual minimum 1,000 trees. And so we all, yeah, and so we like to count that in too.
I know that Phil has participated in that, right?
All right. Thank you. Any other questions?
I do. 99 Floral, 99 and Second. Are you getting some crews out there to do the off ramp? I saw you guys out there a couple weeks ago. You've had some staffing issues from what I understand. Will you be getting back to our cities, Fowler, Selma, Kingsburg, doing the
routine maintenance cleanup?
The routine maintenance because the weeds are getting kind of high.
I will take note of it and make sure that our maintenance and operation deputy knows that it's.
We've got one on 99 in front of the car dealers, and they really like it when you can see their cars off of 99. Get that. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other thoughts, questions for Caltrans?
I'd just like to say thank you. And thank you to your twins for lending you to us for the last year. appreciate working with you. You've always had such a pleasant attitude. It's always been easy to, come up to you and ask you any questions, or, you've been a wonderful communicator. And my favorite part of the meeting, because you're at the end.
You, Mayor Purcell. I
But
appreciate it.
no, I really appreciate you, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
I wish you well, and I hope that you have a wonderful time with your twins and spend some more time with your family. So.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Shane.
We appreciate you, Shane. Okay.
Mexico.
Moving on, we
fun in
have
Mexico.
administrative consent items. Item B on the agenda. Anyone has any questions on those items? If not, can I get a motion for item A and B?
Motion to approve administrative consent items as presented.
Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion pass. We don't have any administrative action items. Next, we have other items. Any items from staff?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did want to introduce Aaron Hagenson as our newest project delivery staff member. Aaron, please stand up. Us from the county of Fresno, has more than 20 years experience in programming and project delivery, just on the other side of this. So she's learning the ropes from this side. She does replace Ophelia Abundez. And we hope that you welcome Erin. You will be seeing a lot more of her. So welcome, Erin, and thank you for joining
Welcome,
us.
Aaron.
Welcome, Aaron. I didn't recognize you at first, and then later, oh, that's Aaron.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Robert.
Thank you.
Next, we have items from members. Any items from any members?
I just had one. This is the 250th year for America. And so if any of your cities are doing any celebrations, please share it with all of us, as I think the city of Fresno and the city of Clovis are joining on some celebrations as well. And so I think it'd be great to hear what the rest of the community is doing, and we can celebrate together.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Next, we have public presentations. Nobody from the public.
There's somebody on Zoom.
Anyone?
Yeah, I think there is.
None.
There's no Zoom?
Not yet.
They don't make comment yet.
Well,
If I
you
can-
know,
if I can please,
hold on. I do have something then in that case. So in May, we're doing a bike ride, and Fireball, Freddie, you need to talk to the organizer. Bike ride from Fireball to Huron. It's Huron's 75th anniversary,
That's a
May
lot of
3rd.
fun.
And
The anniversary.
Fireball, Mendota, San Joaquin, you guys are a part of it. Please respond to the organizer. We're getting a bunch of folks involved. And Robert, you need to be a speaker at one of the sites. Moses, you need to be a speaker at another one of the sites. And Jerry, you need to take your bike. But no, we're talking about trails, brother.
Got a new bridge.
Actually, Huron is a city in District 6, the only city with a Class 4 bike lane on the state route. Correct or no? You just say yeah. Just say yeah. Say what? Thank you. Thank
Meeting
you.
adjourned. If I can please ask everybody if we can take a picture together. Appreciate it.
Look at,
Can
I
you
took
please-
my bike. If my
Yeah, show your
Oh.
your platform, your picture.
Let's move the chairs up.